Picture this. It's 1999. The Phantom Menace is in theaters, Y2K paranoia is on the rise, and a new game called Driver has hit store shelves. Before Grand Theft Auto 3 showed players the endless possibilities of sandbox gaming, Driver gave a taste of the genre's potential. Developed by Reflections, the original Driver was a critical and commercial hit. Critics praised the game for its 3D open-world environments and slick driving. If you ask older gamers what the best PlayStation games are, some are bound to mention Driver. My introduction to this series was through one of the later games, Driver San Francisco. I did have Driver 2, but I could never beat the game because I thought it was insanely difficult. Over the years, I learned about Driver's reputation as a PlayStation classic. Since I don't have nostalgia goggles for Driver, I was curious to see how this 20-plus-year-old game holds up in a world where gamers know how to do a reverse 180 and drift around tight corners.
We don't get too many ex-racing boys in here. Low-life rumble in Miami is there's a hunt on for a guy who can pump the gas. Big getaway, big job. Maybe even some kind of hit.
John Tanner is a former street racer turned NYPD cop. His boss asked him to go undercover and investigate the Castaldi crime family. Agreeing to do so, Tanner makes his way to Miami, where he takes on various jobs for different criminals until he's working with the Castaldis. As he navigates his way through the criminal underworld, Tanner learns the Castaldis plan on assassinating the president.
The same tune that you already heard. We're not sure if your cover's clean anymore. Man, you pieced all together in the first place. Hancock's bribe.
Driver's undercover cop story is serviceable if forgettable. It serves as a means for Tanner to get in the high-speed chases and close calls with the police. Tanner himself is mostly silent and prefers to let his driving do the talking. The rest of the cast consists of stereotypical gangsters who spout cartoony voices and provide Tanner with new jobs.
Since we don't have Slater, we got ourselves a different driver. But, Jean-Paul, you handle the hit, and I'll handle the backup. When do we go?
As paper-thin as the plot is, the game exhibits style. It's clear developer Reflections is a big fan of classic cop shows and movies, and this passion shines through in various ways. Tanner's behavior and mannerisms based off the main character from 1976's The Driver. They're both men of a few words, though at least Tanner has a name. Plus, the game's opening prologue is heavily inspired by a scene from The Driver where the main character impresses some thugs by pulling off various driving maneuvers in a parking garage. Additionally, there are nods to other works like Bullet, The French Connection, Starsky and Hutch, and more. Ironically, it's a better Starsky and Hutch game than the Starsky and Hutch game that came out a few years later.
You have 3 new messages.
Granger's gang's been seen in town, and they got our boy lucky. We're putting a team together.
Driver is an open-world driving game that sees players completing different jobs across several cities including Miami, San Francisco, and New York. Whereas other open-world games feature both on-foot and vehicle sections, all the action in Driver takes place behind the steering wheel. What's even more surprising is how well the driving holds up. This game may be 20 plus years old, but the handling doesn't show its age. Steering is fast and responsive, allowing you to take corners with ease or use burnout to swing yourself around and make a quick escape. You can weave through traffic with no problem and marvel the rims flying off your vehicle after every tight turn.
You don't get it, do you? We don't want you. We just want to know about the French guy.
Driver is no walk in the park. This is made no clearer than the first level, where you need to perform a handful of driving maneuvers in a parking garage. Remember how I said Driver is fondly remembered? Well, ask those same people how they feel about the parking garage, and chances are they'll start getting dizzy, delusional, and deranged.
Hey man! Okay!
Maybe I'll give you a call when I need a ride to the grocery store.
You goddamn idiot! I'll ruin your fucking name!
I doubt many 90s kids knew what slalom was, and the fact Driver asks so much from the player during this opening stage discouraged a lot of people from continuing the story mode. Today, being the parking garage is no problem. Plus, there's an option in the main menu to watch a tutorial that shows you how to beat this level. Still, the fact this opening stage is so challenging reflects how Driver isn't afraid to test a person's driving skills.
We want to use you on a bank job. No hassles. Should be real sleepy. You want in?
As I mentioned before, the story mode sees Tanner taking on jobs from various crooks. New missions are accepted via the answering machine in his motel room. He may be asked to help some burglars make a getaway, help a convict escape arrest, or drive a truck containing smuggled weapons. Which missions you accept affects which characters you meet, though it doesn't affect the overall flow of the story. However, some missions are harder than others. Driver's difficulty flip-flops. Some missions are easy, others are hard. Part of the challenge stems from the fact most objectives are timed. You'll be asked to reach your destination within 2 to 3 minutes. Fail to do so, and it's game over. There were plenty of close calls where I made it with only seconds to spare, and it's exhilarating weaving through the streets trying to make it to wherever it is you're supposed to be going. The more time you spend in these levels, the more familiar they become. Then there's the police. In any other game, the police respond whenever you start causing mayhem. Driver takes it one step further. If they spot you speeding, running a red light, or doing any dangerous driving, they will pursue you. I must give Reflections props for including this feature because it's the one thing other games ignore when it comes to police response. The police are equal parts ruthless and incompetent. These guys will stop at nothing to stop Tanner, but in the process, they tend to do more damage to themselves than they do to you. The longer the police keep chasing you, the higher the felony meter gets. Get your felony meter high enough, and we'll start setting up blockades. There's also some rubber banding going on because there were many instances where these guys were able to catch up to Tanner even if he was several blocks ahead of them. The best way to lose the cops is by driving on the wrong side of the road and winding through as much traffic as possible. However, even after the coast is clear, you still need to keep your eyes peeled for any fuzz because if they spot you, the cycle starts all over. Expect to check the map constantly for any patrolling cars. As aggressive as they are, they're also not the brightest. These guys make the cops from the Blues Brothers look like professionals. When they come charging in from the other side of the street, they're more likely to crash into a building instead of hitting Tanner. If there's only one cop on your tail, you can easily disable him by letting him rear end your vehicle. This does little damage to you, but a lot of damage to them. It's the most efficient way to get them off your tail, and you don't waste too much time trying to reach your destination. Regardless, Driver is difficult. Some of the later missions are so challenging, you'll be hitting restart until you get it right. Driver is old school trial and error. However, it's satisfying when you beat a tricky mission. The game may be tough, but it's fair.
We're gonna have 4 backup cars in case anything goes wrong. One at each junction around... Excuse me, Monsieur Castaldi, but who is the heat?
Surprisingly, the last level, the President's Run, was easy. In it, Tanner needs to get the President to a safe spot while avoiding the police and Castaldi's men. I had heard horror stories about how difficult the stage was, but it only took me 2 tries. Driver's other big problem is its repetition. The game features 40 plus missions spread across 4 cities. Most of them involve reaching a destination, waiting for the character to do something, then taking them back to a safe house while avoiding the cops. As repetitive as they get, I was never bored because of the excellent driving. Besides the story, there's Take a Drive and a handful of challenges. Take a Drive lets you cruise through the cities you've unlocked. It's this game's free roam mode and a great way to allow some steam if the story gets too difficult. The challenges include time trial and survival. These are fun, but survival is comically difficult. The police relentlessly bash and smash you until your vehicle is in ruins. Driver shows its age visually. The pop-in is constant and the frame rate craps itself when there's too much going on. The nighttime sections are so dark, I had to boost the brightness on my monitor to see where I was going. The worst aspect of the graphics are the cutscenes. They're well directed, but everything is so blurry, it's hard to make out what's going on. As dated as the graphics are, they're still impressive. The scope and size of the levels is remarkable considering this is on the PS1. Reflections was being ambitious, and I commend them for what they were able to pull off. The physics are great. Cars bounce and shift depending on where you are driving, and the vehicle damaging system looks neat. Another cool detail is how the hub changes when Tanner relocates to a new city. He starts at a C Miami motel, and by the end, he's taken jobs from a fancy New York hotel room. Like the graphics, the sound hasn't aged well. The voice acting is terrible but charming. The cheesy line deliveries kept me grinning the whole time, whether it was Tanner's stoicism or the head Castaldi sounding like a dime store Marlon Brando. Special praise needs to be given to the funk-infused soundtrack, which enhances the vehicular action with some groove.
You think it's the driver?
I don't remember asking you a thing. We got a rat for sure. You drove well tonight, Tanner. You got some...
I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed the original Driver. Given what I had heard, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this game or find it overrated. I'm glad it was the former and not the latter. Driver has flaws. The story is flimsy, the difficulty curve is inconsistent, and the AI lacks the I in AI. Yet at its core, this is a game about driving, and it's damn good driving. It's fast, responsive, and never did I feel like the cars were too loose or too heavy. It hits that sweet spot a lot of driving games often miss, and I was eager to play the next mission just so I could do more wheeling and steering through the city streets. It pays tribute to the classics while carving its own identity. Driver showed gamers what the open world genre could do, and while Grand Theft Auto may have revolutionized the formula, the original Driver laid down the foundation for others to build upon. Driver gets a 7 out of 10.